Good morning. So today is watering day for two of my plants, my pitcher plant and one of my mini orchids. So all my plants are on different watering schedules. Fun, I know. But the watering depends on when you get them, when they're repotted, if they're repotted. So they all need to be watered different days. And I'm not quite brave enough to try to sync up their watering patterns. Okay, so first things first, we're going to do the pitcher plant. So the cool thing about pitcher plants, and the reason that I got it is a carnivorous plant. So that means it eats bugs. So these little pitchers here, you can see, there's a liquid inside and the scent of it attracts the bugs, and then the bugs get trapped inside and the plant eats the bugs. It's pretty cool. So if you see this one's brown, some of them are browning, that's totally normal. The pitchers die off, and then once they reach the top of the stem or the leaf, then you can pinch them off. So this one's almost ready to be pinched off. You can also leave them on, it doesn't harm the plant, but it's not very pretty to look at. And then you see these new leaves that are coming out that don't have anything attached will eventually grow a pitcher. So this is my newest pitcher, which is why it doesn't have the same coloring as this one, because it's not as mature as that one. So with pitcher plants, tap water is a big no-no. I did it the first like 1 or 2 times because I didn't have the appropriate water, but you want to use distilled water. So I keep this gallon of water for my pitcher plant mainly. So you want to just put a little bit of water in a tray. There's different ways you can do this, but I like the bottom watering. Put a little bit of water in a tray or a cup or bowl, and you just let the pitcher sit there and it'll soak up as much water as it needs. And then whatever's left over is left over. So we have that watered. You let it sit probably for about 10 minutes. Pitcher plants, you don't want them to completely dry out. Okay. For the orchid, so this is a moth orchid, and its fancy plant name is something I can't really pronounce. It's with a P. So orchids are similar. You can either water them from the top or water them from the bottom. I like to water them from the top just to make sure that they get thoroughly watered. So orchids come with, so this one's gonna have to be repotted. I think if I want to repot it now. So the container that it came with doesn't really allow it to breathe, so I'm feeling this is going to rot if I don't repot it. So orchids have a special type of soil or matter that they like. You don't want to put orchids in regular potting soil. It's not going to allow the roots to breathe enough, and it's not going to allow enough drainage of the water, and you're going to end up with root rot. So there is special ways to have a healthy orchid. So with orchids, you can either do, there's a lot of people who do like water or like some kind of water mix stuff for orchids. Can't remember the name of it right now, it's too early. I don't do that. You can also just get like a orchid potting mix, which is mostly, if you look at it, it's bark. Okay, so that's actually what we're gonna do. Wasn't expecting to do this today, but now that I'm looking at the pot, I can see it's not really what I want. So I have killed a great deal of orchids. I had no idea how to take care of them for years, and I have gotten a few orchids over the last year, and I was really determined to keep them alive. And so I've been reading a lot about them and trying out different things. So if you can see, the roots are wrapped completely around moss. I don't like moss for the orchids because, from my experience, it rots. So I had already replanted another baby orchid. You're not really supposed to repot them when they have flowers, but we're gonna try to be really, really careful because this is just not a good mix. It's actually really bad. I don't even know what they put in here, but there's some kind of glitter in my moss. So that goes to show you. Okay. Man, I'm trying to be super gentle. You can wear gloves if you want to. When I repot, don't like to, just because I like to be able to feel and gently be able to pull out any roots that might be tangled. I'm trying to be so gentle. Okay. Flipper. So the roots actually don't look bad. I'm going to show you. Thankfully, she is not dehydrated. But the issue with moss is it retains a lot of water, and so it makes it easier to overwater orchids, and you don't want to overwater your orchid because it'll die and it'll rot from the roots up. Okay. Trying my best to get all of it. Okay. All right. So if you can see them, I'm going to just rinse them off. So if you can see the green and how for the most part they're pretty full. So we've got some really good roots, some that are, can use a little bit of extra health. But we're gonna leave it as is. So when you are watering or rinsing your orchid, you want to make sure to not get it on the crown, which is this part, because then it can rot in. So when you water the orchids, you want to water from here down. Okay. So we have a little bit of matter in here. So these are the types of cups that you want to use, or I guess planters for orchids. So something that has really good drainage. So if you can see here, it's got a lot of holes, where this one was just basically a plastic cup with one hole in the bottom. I've never seen an orchid planter this confined, but Publix. Okay, so we're gonna put a little bit of matter in. Then I'm going to put my orchid in carefully. Cool. And then I'm going to add more matter. And so as we add matter, we want to make sure that it gets in and around. So we're going to try to shake it up a little bit. We'll do that until it's nicely full. And then we can water it. Shake very carefully if there's flowers, because you don't want to shake the beautiful flowers off. That might be good. A little bit more. Okay. So we have our orchid nicely replanted. You can always try to reposition the stakes if you want to. Okay, I think we're good. All right, now we're gonna water her. So I'm gonna water from the top. Just clean this mess up. So with all of your plants, you want to make sure to use cleaner water. So you can, some plants like distilled water, some like purified water, some you can just use filtered water. I know there's people who collect rainwater. I do that for my plants outside. I keep my watering can up close to the edge of the balcony, and in South Florida it rains a lot, especially over summer, so it fills up with water, which is really nice. So just very quickly, for those of you who don't know, I am rehabbing an orchid, so I just kind of want to show you the difference. So if you see here, you see how this plant, it's like nice and stiff, the leaves, right? So that means that it's nicely hydrated. Here we have this leaf, which is a little firmer, and then this one, which is super floppy, as is this one. So I have been rehabbing this orchid now for about 2.5 weeks, and I followed Michael's Orchids on YouTube and his whole process. So what I did was, I'm just going to show you guys. So you see it barely has a root system. So its roots were completely rotted. So I cut off most of the roots. I only kept the few healthy ones. I cut off the stem. All the flowers had fallen off and the stem was already dying. And this is very healthy compared to how it was 2.5 weeks ago. These leaves were so unbelievably just floppy, which they've gotten a lot better. So I soak it in black tea during the day and then let it dry out at night. So orchids are wonderful plants once you kind of learn to take care of them. All right, so time to water it. So we're gonna take some nice clean water and we are just going to pour it. Again, you want to make sure not to get it in the crown. We want to make sure that the matter is nicely soaked. So whenever you repot a plant, whichever plant it is, you want to make sure that it's watered as soon as it's replanted or repotted. There are of course some plants that like to be dried out, succulents, cacti, all that. But even then, you still want to wet it. So one of the good things about this is you'll see if it needs more matter, areas will open up. And then any excess water is going to run out of the bottom. I do have a tray here. I'm not just dripping this all over my counter. Okay, so you want to let it dry, make sure it's good, and then we can put it in its pot and it is ready to go.